When it comes to Knock at the Cabin, everyone is talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse and how they're represented in this film. But for this video, I want to hone in on a much smaller item in the movie. As you can probably tell by the title of this video, I want to focus on the jar of grasshoppers and what they represent in this film. We barely see this jar in the movie besides the beginning of the film, but this jar lays the foundation for the themes in this film. The movie opens with Wen grabbing grasshoppers and placing them in a jar, and then noting how they act. Leonard then approaches Wen and asks if he can join her in the activity. He also says that one of his favorite things to do as a kid was to catch grasshoppers. Again, I know this interaction may seem insignificant, but I think there's something to be examined here. The first thing I want to talk about is the artistic choice of using grasshoppers. I know this may seem like a random selection in the film of a common insect, but grasshoppers are symbolic of way too many things for this just to be coincidence. Some of the notable qualities that grasshoppers symbolize include intuition and listening to our inner voices. I also want to point out what grasshoppers do, and that is leaping through grass. These leaps that grasshoppers take are highly symbolic as they represent leaps of faith, and this is a common symbol associated with the insect. This leap of faith is undoubtedly the largest theme in the film, as everyone is tasked with performing their own leaps. The family in the cabin is given the duty to sacrifice one of their own to stop the apocalypse from happening. But in order to do this, they first have to believe the four strangers who are giving them this task. This is the main hurdle that they have to cross, because from their perspective, this invasion just seems like a targeted attack. At the same time, the four strangers, or horsemen if you want to call them that, also have to have faith that their visions mean something, and that going to the cabin is truly the only way to resolve this issue. Adriana, Sabrina, Redmond, and Leonard could have easily chalked up their visions to mass hallucinations, or maybe even a demon or a spirit messing with them. But instead they choose to have faith that these visions are from a higher power. Their leaps of faith come from their willingness to follow through with this mission and to even sacrifice themselves in the process for the sake of the world. Eric's sacrifice at the end of the movie and Andrew's willingness to follow through with it are the final leaps of faith that are taken in this film as they choose to give in and to believe that their actions will fulfill a greater purpose. Another aspect about the grasshopper that I want to mention is personal growth and how grasshoppers can't jump backward or side to side, but only forwards. This is important because this represents the personal journey of each character in the film and how they can only move forward from their past events. Knock at the Cabin constantly shows flashbacks, but these memories display that people can only move on from their trauma. And this is what Eric expects Andrew to do after he kills him. This whole ideology of moving forward and not dwelling on the past is what Eric's philosophy seems to be, as he constantly focuses on the future. Eric is the one who envisions a healthy future for Andrew and Wen, and he is the only person in the family who seems to be in the moment, thinking about how his actions in the here and now could affect Earth. Contrast this with Andrew, who is insistent on staying in the past. Andrew is the one who is obsessed with the idea that this was a targeted attack, and Andrew holds Redmond's previous actions over him. Andrew doesn't really consider the future because of his refusal to sacrifice anyone in the here and now, but Eric extends his wisdom to Andrew at the end of the film when he asks him to jump forward and to not dwell in the past. So these acts of taking a leap of faith and moving forward as a person relate the grasshopper to the themes of the movie, but what about the jar itself? If you think my ideas so far have been stretching it, then honestly you probably should just click away right now. The jar to me represents Earth, and the parallel that I want to draw is that the grasshoppers are scooped up and put into the jar without any say, just as we were born and placed onto this earth without any say of our own. The grasshoppers also have no idea why they were placed into the jar, just as we humans have no idea why we were placed onto this earth. The lid on the jar is then shut, and what I find interesting is that it's completely forgotten about, which seems to indicate that whatever placed us here has forgotten about us too. This forgetting of the jar could also be done to indicate the clumsiness of humans and their lack of care for others. The life that is then in the jar faces inevitable doom as they are forgotten about, and we see this with the grasshoppers since they won't get any food. The grasshoppers will, over time, have to resort to eating each other because there is no food in the jar, just as humans have to compete with one another due to a lack of resources. The last thing I will point out is that there are 5 grasshoppers in the jar, and this foreshadows the 5 sacrifices that will be carried out later in the film. I really wish I could get a complete shot of the diary that Wen had, since it probably has more foreshadowing in it, but nonetheless, this is a neat detail. Either way, I believe the main takeaway from these grasshoppers is that we are just like them. It's up to us to decide if we have been forgotten about with the lid placed on us, or if we have something observing us and meticulously noting everything we do. But no matter what the case is, we have to keep moving forward and take our own leaps of faith. This is just my interpretation of the grasshoppers, and please let me know what you think about this symbol in the comments below. If you think I'm stretching it, then please let me know in the comments below, because I was trying to make the most out of this symbol. I try my best to make original videos here on this channel, and since I do everything here on my own, these videos can take quite some time, so all of your support is greatly appreciated. Please consider checking out some of my other videos, and if you made it this far, thank you, I love you, and I genuinely hope that you have a great rest of your day.